Hi, we are Design.Random. Our group consists of myself, Jay Burry, Ramon Barbad, Daniel Porter, and Jack Lascelle, and we would like to present part 4 of our app, Chicken Tender. Our team wanted to make sure that we were solving a problem that wasn't already attempting to be solved by several other ambitious people. We chose to create an app that tackled the problem of agreeing on a place to eat when people were dining with more than just themselves. With a little research, we discovered that this is a common issue for people, and there weren't many known app solutions. We also decided that we wanted our app to help resolve the issue of finding out about the newest and hottest restaurants in town. Our users is where we found the widest variety and discovered that they were going to be our biggest targets. Our app does have a couple of stakeholders like restaurant owners, new restaurant businesses, and restaurant staff. However, our app isn't going to impact them as much as the users because although it would bring in more income for those new restaurants, for the restaurants that are already frequented, our users would be visiting them anyway. As we thought about what kind of users we would reach with our app, we discovered that the following people would be most benefit from this type of tool. So we have the people who love to try new places, like the foodies of the world, people who eat out often, people who spend a lot of time arguing over where to eat, busy families, as well as the occasional diners. When it came to conducting research to narrow down important features, we wanted to make sure we reached all the right types of people. We chose to interview only our users and not our stakeholders, as the app did not directly impact our stakeholders. Sure, as I mentioned before, the app would bring in business for restaurant owners and restaurant staff. However, given that our app is geared towards helping restaurant goers, we felt our users would be our best source of input. We tried our best to interview various types of users, busy families, less busy families, foodies, and the younger single crowd. In order to make sure we were getting the right kind of information, we asked each of our interviewed users the following 12 questions. We asked questions like, how do you regularly decide where to eat? And do you find deciding where to eat when it's more than just you a struggle? To better understand how much our users are struggling with this issue and to help narrow down ways that our users are already trying to navigate it. We also ask questions like, do you find yourself eating at the same place to avoid prolonged discussions on where to eat? How often do you find you're trying new places? And is trying new places an interest of yours, to really help narrow down whether or not our users would like it if the app suggested new places while they were swiping left or right. We also ask questions like, what do you take into consideration when you're deciding where to eat, to really help to find out what features our users deemed as important. For example, things like proximity, allergen choices, and food types. In addition to interviewing our users, we also checked out other restaurant finder apps to help us see what we liked and disliked about the apps already out there. We figured, as tech-savvy people, if there were features about the app that were hard to navigate or frustrating, then chances are, for a portion of our users, this would be even more of a problem. And we wanted to make sure we avoided those issues in our app. Once we completed our research, we analyzed the data of our interviews. The interviews really helped highlight the key features that our users would be looking for. The biggest thing we needed to make sure of was that the app included a wide variety of restaurant options to make sure that no matter who was using the app, it would offer them options they liked. The next big thing the data showed us is that we would be catering to a wide range of people, and therefore our app needed to be clear and easy to navigate. Not all our users are going to be tech savvy. And the last thing was that we needed to include key options like proximity, allergen-free choices, and price range. Between our interviews and our researching of other apps, we were able to narrow down a decent list of features that our app really needed. The features we found were average menu price, rating, what parking was like, as well as filters for genre, allergens, and restaurant type. We also discovered that we needed to include icons in our swipe left or right page that indicated helpful information like restaurant menu, rating, restaurant location, and whether or not the restaurant offered takeout or delivery. We also discovered that a frequently visited setting was also wanted by our users. This way they could save the new restaurants they've tried or save the ones that they have already visited and enjoy.
So, describe the brainstorming process following P1 and some of the groupings you identified were important to your project. Our brainstorming process was pretty much just taking together all of our interview results and comparing the data. The pieces that were common we saw we would need to include, whereas the ones that were just said once or hinted at weren't really important to us. So the ones that were commonly said, we wanted to include as many of as possible within reason. We didn't want to have an app that was too bulky, but we still wanted to make sure that we got what the people wanted. So we tried to get as many of the user needs within reason as possible. We found that of all the pieces that were identified, the most important ones were menus, restaurant info, and maps. Whether you're going in a group or by yourself, people need to know what's on the menu, what's the restaurant about, and where it is. If you can't have that information, people aren't going to be able to decide on where to eat, which is the whole point of our app. So these are two of our sketches from part 2. Basically all of us, after our individual labs, uploaded our sketches and voted on them. And these two are the most highly beloved. They had good layouts and made sure to include as many user needs as possible. And in the end, we actually ended up using pieces from both of them. They used each other to improve their own in the refining process. And in our prototype, we would continue to draw from both of them, as they just both had some very nice touches, and we want to make sure that our final app looked as nice as possible. So 3 primary issues. What we needed to fix was text visibility, add global navigation buttons, and make sure we have a help page. Now, a very common feedback that we saw was text height and the size of buttons. And on computers, they looked small, but the text height and size of buttons was actually deliberately chosen based on Apple and Android standards. So after putting all that in, it looks great on a phone, but it doesn't look so great on a computer. And I'm guessing most of our classmates use computers to view our project. So it appeared small, but if you view it on a phone, which it was designed for, it looks great. So that was something we ignored. We didn't do that, but because that was a deliberate decision. Text visibility, we made sure the backgrounds contrasted more and had better colors for the text. The global navigation buttons help make sure everything is working well, and a help page to make sure that you can figure out your way. Even if it's your first time or if you're confused, there is help.
After identifying the primary issues in our system, here are the design fixes we applied. In order to make the text more visible to the user, we use a much darker gradient background and a simpler single color text. As you can see, text are much easier to read and very clean to look at. And we make sure that these changes doesn't affect the image quality we are displaying. To navigate between pages easily, we added a global navigation button for each major pages. These buttons will help user to go directly on a specific page in just one tap. And finally, in order to address those minor problems for the user, we provided a help page for instructions on how to use the app and a frequently asked questions page to allow the user to add and find solutions for any app issues. What would we do in future next iteration for the app? Number 1 would be simplify the match screen to make it easier for the user to navigate. They're using other competitors' delivery services like DoorDash and Skip. We will add a feature that would accept, and we will deliver those orders.